Hey, welcome to Coach's Corner. This is our first inaugural episode, and it's brought to you by your favorite CX coaches, or hopefully at least your most passionate. Dan McCann, I'm the CEO of SimTrain, and we have Ian Hall along with us as our co-host, our Chief Marketing Officer. SimTrain's redefining how companies coach and develop their customer-facing employees. And with us today, we're super excited to have Bobby Brown joining us. And Bobby, developing human capabilities, we believe, is one of the most important jobs in the world. People, I think, are designed to break barriers, and we see it all the time. The combining mental approach with the physical capabilities. So, on our first episode, I'd love to talk a little bit about your background, get to know you as it relates to coaching, a little bit about your passion as well. And Ian, I think Bobby's a little bit humble. If you don't mind sharing with us how you know him and why he is the legendary Bobby Brown up there
Yes,
in
I am. I
Connecticut.
would be more than happy to do so.
Awesome.
So,
Thanks,
uh,
Ian.
Bobby Brown is the director of golf at Tashua Knolls Golf Club in Trumbull, Connecticut, also a PGA teaching professional. And I like to refer to Tashua Knolls as the best value in golf. And if anybody can prove me otherwise, I'd like to see them try. But since Bobby's in his, I believe, his 21st year at Tashua Knolls, and since he's
Nice.
been there, he has transformed not only the course but really its notoriety with coaching the game, and not just the game of golf, but life lessons. And he and his team have been really become renowned as some of the best teaching of golf in the area. And also what's awesome with Bobby and his team, it really focused on youth teaching and really teaching the next generation of golfers, the right way. And I can say that from personal experience because my kids have gone through his programs and it's just amazing. My daughter played with his daughter in high school. So I really can't say enough about Bobby and his impact in the area of golf and community.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Bobby, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and don't be afraid to mix in a little bit about these world-class female golfers up there that you coach and anyone else that we should know about.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the inaugural podcast with
Yes,
Simtran.
sir.
It's awesome. And again, quite an honor to be asked to do this and kind of associate the parallel of coaching golf, a coaching sport, and also with business. And it kind of goes hand in hand with what I do because a lot of life lessons are learned, and we know most of our players are not going to become professionals, but they're going to use these life lessons, so to speak, to carry on into their professional lives. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Massachusetts. Probably could tell by my accent, or it will come out outside the Boston area. And I grew up in, just playing golf started at the age of 12 and just really fell in love with the game. And I was always put in a situation where I had a lot of kids around me and we just had a great time. I lived with my grandparents all summer long and just played between 36 to 54 holes a day
Nice.
and just a lot of golf, but just really in a positive environment. The two golf professionals that were there really helped. I kind of owe them a lot, and that's what kind of sparked my interest of like always wanting to give back to the game of golf. And that's where I do now in terms of working with youth. Prior to coming to Tashua Knolls, I was in Florida for 15 years. I opened up a brand new 27-hole golf course in West Palm Beach called Okahili Golf Course, where my boss at the time, Donna White, an LPGA tour player, she and I took that, and it was real simple. The director of Parks and Recreation from Palm Beach County said, all we want you to do is build the biggest junior golf program in the country.
Nice.
I'm like,
Wow.
really? Welcome to Palm Beach County, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not even like just deal with Florida, but I took that pretty seriously, and I had the latitude from my boss to do so. And we probably ranked in the top five, which is pretty large. I had over 6,000 kids in our program, and I did so much stuff I had a foundation to give any kid access to the game that couldn't afford it. I did a lot of work with inner city youth. And so my experience and with the game and life lessons just goes so deep. And it's kind of molded to me to what I'm doing today, which is focusing more on elite junior golfers, and really primarily in the female market.
And Bobby, one of the things you brought up, right, is this lifelong passion for golf, right? And I know there's some human beings that could still play 36, 54 holes. I couldn't imagine doing that. That's amazing, by the way. Can you talk? I look at my background and I was a little bit more passionate about coaching than I was the CX world, right? And I've grown more passionate about customer experience and CX and contact centers, but coaching is really what I'm passionate about. Can you tell us about how you took that passion for golf and converted that into maybe a passion for developing players and coaching golfers?
Definitely. Early on in my career, actually, even going like I mentioned before, but the two professionals in Worcester, Mass, they got me started right away with just working with inner city kids from the Worcester area down at this Auburn driving range. And I was so young. I was 14 years old. We would have 75 kids on the line. Besides almost getting killed by golf clubs, it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
But in Florida, especially when I was you know, a young apprentice in the PGA professional program, I had a great mentor, Warren Botke, who took me to the PGA teaching and coaching summits. We started out in New Orleans for like over it's every other year in the PGA, and I still attend. We just had one this past year. I'm always trying to learn, and I'm always trying to be a better coach. And I think it just takes a lot of time and patience, but you always can get better. Once you stop learning, you become a dinosaur.
And
And
Ian, you kind of lived through the firsthand, right? You said you had a few kids in the house that maybe
Yeah.
experienced coaching
Yeah.
with
I
Bobby.
have three kids, all of whom experienced Bobby's coaching, his team's coaching at different levels. And what I will say, and I think is relevant to this conversation, not only from a golf, learning the game and coaching the swing, but it was about, life lessons as well. And some of the organization, and Bobby was really big on that. And I really think I know that's had a big impact on my kids, and the game of golf can do that. And I think, Dan, when we think about, CX as well, it's like okay, there's the training, but there's also extensions of that. Like,
Right.
we talk about, like, building empathy and improving on empathy for, in addition to just, handle, saying the right thing, on a
Yeah.
navigation or something, a training plan. So yes, definitely really owe a lot to Bobby and his team about that.
And Ian, I'm glad you brought up the kind of that corporate training, right? Training versus coaching and that ongoing cycle of development of our employees. And Bobby, one of the things that we love to talk about is the definition of coaching in the corporate world. It could go all over the place, right? From, skills development to career pathing to everything in between. And so when you think about coaching, Bobby, and you want to win golf tournaments and you want to win team sports. What's the difference for you when you look at player development, either fundamentals or advanced skills, and really game planning to win? And what's the difference there when you think about coaching in your mind?
Well, first of all, I think it begins with the relationship, developing that
Oh,
long-lasting relationship with your employee or with your student that's in front of you. They're not just coming in for kind of a quick fix. This is a long-term game where we're embarking on a journey, and that is really what the players accountable, the parents are accountable, and it's just a big team effort, just getting this player to their goals, whether they can get there or not, but we're going to have fun doing so. And really just the main thing is just preparation. The
Mm.
5 P's: prior planning promotes peak performance.
don't prevent it.
Yeah, don't prevent it. We want to promote it. And I live by that. And it's just, always being prepared, doing your homework, and just so when you get into that field of battle or competition, or in that moment where could be faced with a tough customer, or just faced with a tough shot, or you're having a down day, how are you going to deal with that adversity?
Love
And
it.
as a I like to personally, and I do that now with my girls. Like this year, I'll be caddying for some of my players,
Oh,
and
cool.
that's when I'm actually
Awesome.
can be inside the ropes, so to speak,
Mhm.
and get into their heads, get into the decision making process. That's when I really learn a lot about my players, their mental fortitude, their resiliency, and things like that. Normally, I'm gonna be on the sideline, or we're gonna be doing either a Zoom call or a FaceTime or some type of a post game analysis. And a lot of it's emotional and just dealing with all the different things of life, and that's kind of that's what I love doing. You don't
Is
get
it,
that from just teaching.
yeah.
It's that this is more coaching. You
Bobby,
know,
I think one thing that I love what you brought up is the relationship, and a long-standing relationship.
Absolutely.
And there's some real good similarities, a strong similarity between that and in that, golf's a tough sport, right? It's really hard. A CX agent, it's a really tough job. And there's high turnover in that, in that industry. And so proper coaching and getting people prepared to deal with a customer in different, customer interactions, and the similarities between your coaching the swing and different similarities between, draining a 7-footer to win the hole. Right. So you have to have that coach, that trusted confidant, with you for a long time. It's not a one and done, right?
Right. Not a one and done. No.
Yeah, same thing too, Bobby, on that adversity side, right? Ian, if I miss a few of those 7, 8 footers, right? Or I miss a couple 3 footers and I start really getting down on myself. Yeah. Bobby, do you have a formula that you like to give to these golfers, these young golfers, to really help them identify how they're personally dealing with adversity and some of the letdowns and make sure they leverage their confidence and in order to overcome?
Definitely. A couple of things. The formula is developing a sound pre-shot routine and a post-shot routine and then how you react, your positive self-talk. You can be either positive or negative, and just taking golf one shot at a time, or just one thing at a time. The other thing is I do a lot of simulation work, try to put them, I haven't done this yet, but one of the things I thought about is like, you want it, that first shot in a tournament or in, it's so scary. You get jitters, you feel people are watching you, you get very self-conscious. I'd like to almost be able to simulate, have just customers come out to the first tee and have my kids perform in that environment. And, because after a while, you learn to tune them out and block them out. It's like you see on the PGA and LPGA tour, that those tee boxes are crowded with spectators. I'd probably take someone out on the right side, but it's, if you train them to know what to expect, the adversity, they can deal with it a little bit better. I think that's important. The simulation, we run through a lot of simulation rounds. Like, that's why I love caddying. And I'm actually, when I'm out there, I do a lot of on the course coaching besides just the driving range. The driving range is good for skill building, but how many people are going to always hit in practice from a perfect lie, a perfect or a mat, and you go on the golf course, the ground's uneven, you've got the environment, you got wind, you've got trees, you've got narrow and wide open things. So you really have to prepare their mind. And I really believe a lot in the mental game of golf. Dr. Rick Hessinghouse, as a person I follow, David McKenzie out of DC. It's a lot of different players and professionals. I try to, Dr. Barbara Tella.
He's pretty well known. Ian, I was thinking as Bobby was talking about some of that simulation, right? Is how our customers love creating those really difficult scenarios with really mean simulated customers inside a sim train in order to prepare them for the more difficult challenges, right? Where those lies aren't perfect lies on the driving range.
I love what Bobby said about, I jotted it down, uneven ground. Right.
Yeah.
So in the golf approach, every set, it can be different. And with CX and context, dealing with a customer, it's uneven ground, right? It's not going to be the same thing every time. Different scenarios, different personalities that you're doing, different challenges. Bobby, maybe you're dealing with the wind blowing right to left. Maybe you've got to get under that tree limb. And as it relates to CX in our business, that customer might be dealing with a really difficult situation. It might be, I don't know, it might be an inaccuracy on their telecom bill or something, and they're upset. So there's so many similarities where that agent needs to be trained, and that golfer needs to be trained in the let's call it the pre-shot environment, so that they're as confident as they can be in different scenarios, whether it's on the golf course or we're talking to a customer.
Exactly.
And Bobby, you talk a lot about the mental game, right? Which I love because it's a big part of coaching. I heard from reading your background. I think you said you coached a lot of world-class golfers. I think one of them was Brooks Koepka. Is that true?
That's true. Yes, Brooks came to our program in West Palm Beach. He lived actually in Wellington, my hometown, when I was living in Florida. But
horse country.
Yeah, polo country. Yeah. But yeah, Brooks and his brother Chase. I had the opportunity to have them in my program, but also work with them also privately.
Yeah.
And Brooks, Brooks just have him as a young man from age. We started working privately probably from age 9 to like 13, and then unfortunately I got the job. Well, fortunately I got the job at Tashua Knowles, and I had to leave a lot of kids behind. And that was a tough day. When I
Yeah.
got out of there and
Oh,
all the parents and kids to a big party, going away, leaving Florida, going to Connecticut. That's when you really know what kind of impact you had on people. And
Love it.
and I still have some relationships today that I still keep a hold of. Besides Brooks, we had in my tournament program, I had Morgan Pressel, Lexi Thompson,
wow. Oh, I
and
didn't know about them.
just recently,
Wow.
a lot of these girls played, LSU, Wake Forest, a lot of top knowledge college, and we were just a single 1 day program. But I had a niche, and I had kids from Jacksonville to Miami coming to West Palm Beach for a 1 day tournament, and
Wow.
and actually a couple weeks ago, Lindy Duncan was leading that major the Chevron 2 weeks ago, and yeah, she was a little spitfire too. She was in our program, so it's just great to see all these kids that I had a relationship with them and their parents, but much more closer with Brooks because Brooks was like an Okahili kid, which means that he was there every day, and he was a troublemaker. He just liked to mix it up. I mean, he was definitely super competitive. He was
Oh,
young and always played with the older kids and would never back down. And kind of the way he played, he wasn't as big as he is now, but he had that mental fortitude, and he would take on any challenge. Sometimes the risk outweighed the outcome, but he had no
Yep.
fear. And
Yeah, and Bobby, talking about that, I was actually reading an article on Brooks. It was really great. He was very authentic. He was a very genuine human being in the article, and he talked about some of the stress and the impact of being on top of your game, right? And I guess in his case, on top of the world, right? In the game for quite some time. And he talked a little bit about retirement and things that he might need to do to focus on the family from a mental health perspective. And it was kind of funny because it was the article was pre 2023 when he won his last major,
wow.
right, in the PGA Championship. What do you think players like that, how do they go through that, the mental approach to get ready and then having to deal with that and then get way up high again to that pinnacle of sport or pinnacle of performance?
well, it starts with a good team around you
Yeah.
to get you through those. But you know, Brooks in particular, I mean, I didn't talk to him about this, but I can only imagine when you're on top of the world in golf. I mean, you're treated as a tour player, you're treated such royalty, and to have that stripped away from you, and really he was dealing. I mean, that first full swing didn't
Mhm.
portray him
Yeah.
too well, and
Right.
he was dealing with injury. And
Mm.
again, that's adversity, right? That's something that he didn't plan on happening, but it affected his performance. Where when Scotty Scheffler has been on the rise, and he was like basically saying that he's in full swing video said he couldn't even. He's like, I can't beat Scotty, but he did.
Mm.
You know,
Right.
that
Yeah.
I think he found something, and that's his competitiveness, and that's where all those guys and girls out there, they're just my boss, she was like one of the first female, contractors in Palm Beach County, and to have that role and to have that chip on her shoulder, she was tenacious, and she
Mm.
played for the University of Florida, a North
Mm.
Carolina girl, and she played out there on tour, and they're just a different breed of thinkers, workers, and talent. And
Yeah.
Brooks, he didn't really get recruited. He had a social career at Florida State.
Florida State.
He had to go to the European tour and work his way backwards to get on
Mm.
the PGA tour. I always
Mm.
knew that once he got a little taste and got going, I knew he'd make it. And I think he played really well, and he played well in the majors early on, and the Ryder Cup. I think early on too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's just got the he's a competitor, ultimate competitor.
Yeah. Hey, one of the things you mentioned is leaving those 6,000 kids behind, right? And the impact that had on you and those families. So one of the things we love is being able to coach, thousands and thousands of CX employees with the use of AI, right? And the impact technology has. on their lives. So we actually don't have to leave them behind because we're being left behind, and they're constantly coaching in SimTrain, which is a nice little outcome. Where does technology play? I know you mentioned some simulations, maybe inviting parents physically and manually to show up on golf courses and calling that simulation, which is awesome. Where does technology play in your player development and coaching career?
Oh, it plays a huge part. I think that's why junior golf is in college golf is exploding right now. And these players that are coming out of college are just making an impact right out on the PGA Tour, right out of the gate. With the obviously the invention of that little orange box called TrackMan.
Yeah.
TrackMan, I have a TrackMan simulator in our indoor training center, and that alone, besides the players know their numbers, they can set up any situation and practice it over the winter months in the Northeast when we have snow. They can
Yeah.
keep, those that want to keep grinding. I use also Gears, which is 3D motion analysis, where we can kind of create an avatar of the body and measure every single joint in your body, which and the club. It's one of the few technologies that measures the club in the body and how they relate to one another. And I think that's and Michael Neff out of Oregon, he is just done a great job with that software. I also have putter simulation. I use Sam Putt Lab. They're out of Germany. So I use a lot of simulation. AI is becoming really, really big in golf as well. We have TrackMan, like I mentioned before. They have AI now. So if you come in, you make a swing, it automatically puts all the diagrams and drawings on a person's swing. And they use an AI device called the person's called Tracy, and based upon after like 5 swings, will give some recommendations of where you should start. So if you personally had a TrackMan in your own house, you could have your own personal coach without having a human there.
That's
In
it sounds
sports
like
box AI, there's so many other things going on right now with
that's
golf.
awesome.
Sounds like Coach Sim.
I was going to say, sounds like the AI coaching cycle, Ian.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
From analyzing what's happening and making a recommendation on these coaching exercises and SimTrain in order to improve performance. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bob, great stories. Hey, Bobby, tell us maybe a fun fact, no, people wouldn't know about you. If I go on websites, read about you, LinkedIn, what would be something folks wouldn't know about Bobby Brown?
Bobby Brown. Just a small town guy from Sutton, Massachusetts.
We knew that.
and just kind of grinded it out and made his way all the way up to where I am now. Fun fact, though, I mean, a couple of things. I've only had one hole in one in a tournament,
Cool.
in a personal tournament down in Delray Beach, Florida. But really, love music, love country music, and my favorite band's Rush from a rock side of things.
Oh,
Nice.
I didn't know that, Bob. You
Right.
share
Yeah,
that too.
I've seen Rush 5 times in concert, but now I'm morphed over. Big Morgan Wallen fan, Nashville fan. So yeah, the country music is where it's at.
Nice. Ian, what was the most number of concerts you went to for the same artist?
For the same artist. Oh. I'm not, it's you two, and it's probably 6. I'm not like, I feel,
6.
yeah, probably, not much. So I know you're going to answer this, but Dan, being both Jersey guys, I feel like, I don't know, I may have, feel this obligation to Bruce Springsteen. And although I like Bruce, I've never seen him in concert. But go ahead. How many times?
I saw
have you
him twice. I saw him in concert twice. Great show. He's a great showman. Zach Brown Band, 9 times. He's 9
Wow.
times I've been to their shows. Yeah. So
Figured it was
that's
Zach
a big
Brown.
one.
Yep.
Hey, Bobby, what about tell us about a favorite book or movie that
Movies, I had a couple. I remember the Titans.
yeah.
Yeah,
My number one
Denzel.
sports movie, Bobby.
Left
Again, coach.
side.
There's good coaching right there, right?
Heck yeah.
And then A Few Good Men.
You good, man. Good coaching there too.
Yeah. Hey,
Oh, man.
but it's good stuff. Really good stuff.
That's awesome. Hey, Bobby, I love the impact you're making on so many lives, right? And
Thank
you
you.
think about, I just was doing the math in my head, tens of thousands of kids and golfers that, are impacted by, the coaching that you do. It's such a noble profession. We're so excited about coaching and CX coaching and excited to see. I think you're going to be coaching for quite a little bit longer, right? Up there in Tashua Knolls?
Yeah, just signed a nice contract extension, potentially up to 9 more years, and
Nice.
looking forward to
Great.
retiring at Tashua Knolls and still have a lot more impact to make. And again, with that being said, I have 7 girls graduating from high school this year, so this June's going to be pretty impactful on me. A lot of these girls I've been working with since they were 7 years old. So that, I think half are going off to play in college.
Nice.
I have one girl going to the University of Notre Dame, so she's not playing in college, but she's gonna have, she's gonna have a great career, and it's fantastic to see these kids just grow, and that's what it's all about. It's just kind of just providing them and helping them along with their dreams, and just being a small part of that.
Awesome. I look forward to going up there and giving that course record a run for its money.
Well,
Yeah.
62. Come on.
62? Is it 62, did you say?
It's 62. It was 66 for many years, but
Okay.
we had it in the Connecticut Open qualifier maybe 7 years ago. The gentleman's name, but he was a former college player and getting ready to go out on like a mini tour, and he just lit it up. 62.
Amazing. 62.
That's awesome. I could get there in 12 holes.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, whenever you get to 61, you just stop playing. There you go.
Yeah. I could get that. I could get there way faster than that guy, Bobby. That's my claim to fame.
There you go.
No, well, great talking to you, and thanks for joining Coach's Corner.
Awesome.
And
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
really appreciate it. Thanks, Bobby. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Keep
Bye-bye.
coaching.